Hello and welcome to another round of the TRR 2020 Championship. I'm Peter Butcher, and tonight I'm joined in the commentary box by Jack Eyre. Hi Jack.
Hello everybody, hope you're well.
Tonight we've got two races at Aston Club AS2 in Live for Speed in the LX6. Jack, do you want to talk to us about the car?
Sure. So we're driving the LX6 this week. Quite a few people's favourite car, quite a few people's least favourite car. It's kind of based loosely on a Caterham. Features a 1.8 litre inline-six engine. Produces 190 brake horsepower, but because it weighs only 539 kilogram, it's a bit of a handful at times. It's got 358 brake horsepower per tonne. And it's got a slightly more even weight distribution than its little brother, the LX4, which is a very similar car, less power though. So 48-52 weight distribution, so pretty good to drive, a driver's car definitely. And as Pete said, this week we're at Aston Club, 3.1 kilometers or 1.9 miles. There's only 4 corners, or 4 actual corners. And out of all the 7 road configurations here at Aston, we are using the second to shortest. The only shorter layout is the cadet layout. That's 1.8 kilometers or about 1.1 miles. So I think qualifying's about to get started. Let's go. So everybody on the way out of the pit lane for 20 minutes of qualifying. I think only one driver in the short practice session that we had before qualifying commenced that got into the 1 minute 7s, but drivers have had a few practice sessions obviously before today, and we'll see how many can get into the 1 minute 7s. Low 1 minute 8, high 1 minute 7s are what I expect at least to be quali times, unless everybody's sandbagging.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is a great little combo. It's 2 long straights followed by a chicane and a little sweeping section that they're coming up to now. It's really quite a simple track, but in the LX6, every single track is quite tricky in my experience, especially this braking zone that the cars are approaching now. We're watching Kevin Peet for Teamwork Racing as he slams on the brakes, and everyone runs a little bit wide. Yeah, people running wide to get the best exit they can. So they can do that as long as they don't really take the mick too much and hold anyone up. So cars choosing to widen their approach onto the start-finish straight here. So a very short lap today, 17 lap races, Jack. What can we expect?
I think we'll see a lot of jostling for position. Can't get away with too much contact in these cars, obviously. Very close to an open wheel car sort of thing, so quite easy to get tangled up. Hopefully everybody keeps it clean. Short lap times, so we might see the grid spread out a little. But I think once everybody's got up to temperature and stuff, people will start to settle into a rhythm. Although this car can be a handful, even when up to operating temperature, so to speak. You see the Team Rock Racing boys round turn number 2 now, past split number 1. We'll see what lap times they can come up with by the end of this lap. I don't think the tyres will be 100% up to temperature by now. We'll see though. Obviously with it being such a short lap, you can really get the tyres into an operating window of about 3 or 4 laps before you start to overheat them. Obviously on the longer tracks, when you run less tyre pressures in qualifying, for example, there's the window changes, but with the track being only 3.1 kilometers or just short of 2 miles long, there's a few laps you can get out of them. So Upsas actually is the fastest out of everybody we've seen so far. Team Rock Racing's Kurtz and Kevin Peet setting their lap time. So Upsas goes fastest so far with a 1:08.45, followed by Renault Kurtz, a 1:08.46, Kevin Peet, a 1:08.56. So very close. Top 3, just over a tenth separates them so far. We've still got 17 minutes left though.
Yeah, 20-minute qualifying session here today, which is plenty of time for these cars to warm up their tyres. Obviously, they're running road tyres, Jack. So, talk to us about the characteristics of those tyres around a track like this.
Obviously, road tyres take a bit longer to get up to temperature. They don't have the same kind of operating window that a slick tyre would. Obviously, you have less grip with the tyre being treaded. And I mean, I think road tyres do tend to be obviously thinner than your average race tyre, in the fact that tyre width on the front, they'll probably be, not sure on the exact measurements, but from the eye, they look like they're probably running like 2.5s, 2.35s. Obviously on a race car, you'd probably see 2.65s, maybe even on the front. So narrower tyres car doesn't weigh a lot, so it doesn't need huge tyres. But
Gavin Peat
yeah,
takes over the
they'll
lead.
handle differently than they would if they were on slicks. But again, they can easily lose this car just from being a bit generous with the loud pedal, really. Again, beat the first driver into the 1 minute sevens. Very similar. That's actually the exact time that was the fastest time in the prior in the prior little practice session that we had before quali. So if anybody can get even faster than that, that's the fastest lap time I will have seen here. But mid to low 1 minute 8s is what we're seeing from the top 6 at least, and high 107s from our leader now. We'll see if anybody else can get into the 107s.
Yeah, this car is such a handful as we see someone there in a Caterham livery going into the wall at the exit of turn 2 or 3 if you count both apexes of the chicane. 26 times on the board, so decent turnout once again for the TRR Championship as Gavin Peat rounds the final corner. He needs to be careful. Oh, narrowly joins in front of that looked like Jaban. Not sure who that was.
Yeah, drivers got to be ever so careful here because 26 cars, the track's only 1.9 miles. There's not a lot of space for everybody.
Talk us through the lap, Jack. We're on board with Gavin Peat right now. As he approaches turn 1, and yeah, he's going to try and better his time. It's already a pretty good time, I'd say.
Yeah, tyres not quite up to perfect operating temperature, but we'll see how he handles turn 2 now. This left here and the right after, it's still classed as one corner, believe it or not, according to the track map. Runs all the way up to the wall there. Obviously the line is to the right of that, but with this configuration you can get away with that. Up to around about 130 miles an hour, full on the power, no lift or brakes or anything through turn number 3. You've got to be careful where you place the car here. As you downshift, you've got to be very careful as well with the car having a H-pattern gearbox. You'll see a lot of drivers rev matching, using all the curb there on the left out of number 4. Just trying to get everything that you can out of this road car. Will it be an improvement? It's a 108.30.
So it does not improve on that lap.
It doesn't, but
he goes for another one.
There's enough fuel in the tank. His tyres look better this time around. Just approaching 140 mile an hour as you brake at the 100-meter board.
He's got a little bit of traffic to contend with now.
He has indeed. Yellow flags displayed on my screen for the slow cars ahead, but I don't think they'll hinder him too much if they carry on with the lap. The gap is around a second. Obviously, with these cars having basically no aerodynamics, you can get incredibly close to the car ahead without being affected. Obviously, you'll still have the draft in a straight line. No car's immune to being drafted, but this car, obviously, a lot of mechanical grip, zero downforce. It's all about the driver and, well, your tyres. You've got to be careful when you run wide, obviously, in live for speed. You pick dirt up on your tyres and that hinders the performance until you scrub them off, of course. So, Gavin Peat with a middle split, 36.58. What can he do as he crosses the finish line? Just shy of a 1 minute 7. It's a 1 minute 8.12. Not an improvement for him. A couple tenths away from his fastest lap so far. But I mean, look, he's got just under 4 tenths.
That's a huge margin around here.
Frank in second place. Now that Adam actually moves up to second place, still
only just.
Yeah, still in the 108.3s. So drivers need to really find more than a couple tenths to even get close to Gavin Peat, and that wouldn't be as much if the lap was a longer lap, but you know, 2 miles is not a lot. If we were on a bigger track, that gap would be amplified. No, not always the usual to see a driver this much faster than the rest of the competition on a track like this. Everybody else needs to get the finger out. Still just over, well, just under 12 minutes of qualifying remain. That will set the grid order for race number 1. Happy to see Adam though in P2. I don't think he joined us last week.
No, he took a week out, but Adam, one of the regulars here.
Now he's on an out lap, I believe. If he's not, it's his first time lap because his tyres are not up to temperature. We'll see those soon here, depending on what line he'll take out the final corner. Not opting to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, not opting to go for the full kind of send, running completely wide to give yourself the best run onto the start-finish straight. But maybe he thinks that this lap that he's about to set might just be a bit of a tester. Obviously, like I said, his tyres still aren't up to temperature. He'll surely have another go after this. The grid's quite spread out this week. 29 cars have set a lap time so far. Fastest being a 1 minute 7.97 and the slowest being a 1 minute 11.2. So not everybody is capable of taming the LX6. It is a bit of a beast, and if you overheat your ears, you're going to lose basically. Got to be incredibly careful in this car.
Adam has been dropped to third, but only by half a tenth. Conquest Racing's Arco goes into P2. So front row for Gavin and Arco right now.
Nice to see that a few of the drivers again close to that 1 minute 7 barrier.
Gavin's on another plane at the moment.
It's unbelievable. So I'll keep my eye on Adam for you, let him know how he gets on. What else is happening around the track?
Most of the drivers seem to be opting for a 3-lap strategy, 1 out lap, 2 hot laps. Obviously, road tyres takes a little bit of time on such a short track with not many corners to heat up the road super compound. Just over halfway through qualifying now. Drivers are quite spread out on lap time as well, Jack, not just on the track, as Grin tags the barrier at the end of the back straight. As he starts his lap, he's down in 11th place right now with the 109.01. So yeah, the top 10 spread by a second. If you think back to last week when we were at SO6 in the Formula XR, we had most of the field within a second and a half.
So, yeah, I think the top 10 were within half a second, if not even closer together.
Yeah, I think it was even closer. It was crazy how close the grid was last week. But the Fox is a very popular car and one that's driven quite a lot in the FM Fox Friday events. Well, every week in fact. And the LX6 is seldom driven these days, but there are a couple of series coming up where you can drive the LX6. The Open Endurance Challenge springs to mind, which will be broadcast on simbroadcasts.tv in June and onwards. You can sign up for that on the LFS forum. There's still plenty of time to sign up for the Teamwork Racing Championship, of course. We're on round 20 of 44. So we're approaching the halfway stage. I feel like I've been saying that for weeks, and I'll probably be saying it for another month. But yeah, it does feel like we are getting into the meat of the series now, where some of the drivers are going to really start to think about, where they're going to be at the end of the championship, because of course there's prizes on offer, good prizes as well.
Starting to see quite a few familiar names at the sharp end of the grid, though. Gavin Pete in the top 5 or top 10 at the least every round. Very consistent driver.
It does depend on the car, though, to some degree, because there aren't. Well, I don't think I've seen one driver in this series yet who has managed to be consistently at the front, regardless of the car. I mean, that's why this series is a great leveler, because it's a different combo and it's a different car every week. And depending on the week that it is, you might be more busy, less busy. You might not be able to get as much practice in. So it really does separate people. And the organisers, Team at Racing and Rocky, have done a great job of picking some great combos and a good variety of cars. So we end up seeing this this effect of who is able to consistently turn up and do well with different cars and different tracks, and that's a great format.
Yeah, it's great to see so much diversity. I mean, just compare the combination of track and car to last week. You were running within an inch of the wall the entire lap in an open wheel car. Lots of carnage, couldn't put a foot wrong. You know, and now you've got this squirrely little Caterham thing that nobody can really tame 100%. You know, and it definitely it can highlight a driver's skill a lot better, purely because combinations are so wildly different. You know, one week you're driving an open wheel car with a ton of downforce. You know, you got to keep the amount of speed, well, minimum, you know, as much as you possibly can, carry the momentum. And then you've got an LX6, for example, where it's just a handful of power and you've just got to feather the throttle pedal all the time.
Absolutely. I mean,
No downforce, you know, one extreme to the other in every case, track and car this week.
I think an LX8 with a wing would be amazing in LFS. But that's
Oh, it's
beside the point.
such a shame that got canned. Can you
Wow.
imagine? It might be the LX8 on the road to this week.
S3 needs an LX8. I just think it does. Anyway, one of the drivers I would have expected to be higher up here, and I know he'll hate me for saying it. It's Frank. He's only 6th at the moment. I know he loves the LX cars, but he's being put to shame right now. He's only 6th, and he needs to get his head down in the 5 minutes that are left and try and get his car onto the front row, because I know he's capable of it, especially in the LX machines. Maybe not the LX6, but certainly the LX4. Sorry, go on, Jack.
We've got just under 5 minutes left. I want to see what Frank can do, actually, because he was quite competitive. Definitely at the sharp end of the little practice session that we had before qualifying started. I think he's definitely got more to give. Whether it's just circumstantial, whether he's not managed to get himself enough space on track, or you know something's gone wrong, I'm not sure. But I tell you, a driver I thought might be a little higher up the order is the man in 14th place at the moment, another Team Rock Racing driver. I thought Zaban would be in at least the top 10. We've seen him at the sharp end of the grid, and well, I've seen him really at the sharp end of the grid in basically every round I've commentated on. I'm sure he's got more to give as well. I'd like to see him in the top 10 before the checkered flag drops in just over 4 minutes' time. Can anybody else get into 1 minute 7s? Still just under 3/10 to gain for Arco in second, over for Adam in third. It's quite a lot to ask for, 3/10 on such a short lap, but if Gavin Peake can do it, what's everybody else missing out on? What piece of track knowledge are they missing in order to gain that bit of time?
Well, on such a short lap, on a 1 minute lap, 3/10 is something fundamental. Honestly, I mean,
indeed. If you amplify that,
yeah.
if you scale up the track length to like a typical track, say 2.5 miles, 3 miles, you look at almost a second gap.
Yep.
And that's incredibly unusual. So whether it's in the setup, whether it's in driver ability, whether it's whether it's just because Gavin's an alien in in the LX, I'm not sure, but
I'm glad you. Yeah, good. Frank's got it all wrong out of the second chicane. He'll do one more lap on this set of tyres, I'm sure, but yeah, this is a ragged lap from Frank. He's still in 6th place. Not a great exit onto the straight either, which is not what he needed. If he bailed his lap, he'd still manage 2 laps, but
yeah, I was going to say, if he
it.
wants to get another run, he needs to bail now.
No, he's committed.
So we'll see if he pits.
He's 4/10 off
After this, I mean, to be fair, even if he completes this lap and pits, by the time the timer runs out, his tyres won't be up to temperature. So,
yep.
Still seen a few people leave the pits, so it's not over for a few.
Went quite deep in turn 1. Let's see how he does. Gavin Peake leads the way, the only driver in the 107s right now. Arco and Adam join him in the top 3. Renault Coots for TRR rounds out the second row at the moment. Then it's Upsas and the man on your screen, Frank.
That's a 37-39 middle split
Yeah,
for
he's bailed.
Frank.
He's bailed on the lap.
He has.
He's going to go for one more. So his tyres aren't on their prime. But yeah, if I had to bank on one person in the LX, it would be this man. So let's see what he can manage on his last attempt, because I doubt he'll get another lap out of these tyres.
Again, we're seeing using every single inch of the track out of turn 4 to try and get the best run he can to propel himself down the straight. See what he's capable of this lap. Should we ride on board?
We are on board.
It's just this car screaming 9,000 RPM is the red line. A huge braking zone. You need to get up to. Very careful on the power till you can give it a boot load. Through turn number 1, that was quite clean. See how much of the track he's able to use through turn number 2. Bit of a rev match down, shift into 4th gear, sideways ever so slightly, but able to get onto the power. Not running as close to the wall as he would possibly like.
It's got a very laggy Kai Caper Oppo up ahead.
I think he's tyre warming.
This isn't going to help him.
Takes to the grass to let Frank through. Pretty decent middle split from Frank, a 36.58. What can he do around the final corner, turn 4?
Ooh.
Not great. The differential really did not help him there.
And he's been tagged by someone starting a lap. That's really irresponsible of whoever that is.
That's Renault Kurtz.
Renault Kurtz, his teammate, in fact. So that won't have helped Frank. And yeah, doesn't improve.
There's nothing he can do. A couple minutes away now. The differential didn't help him. He just loaded that right rear up on the curb, and when he went to boot it, the inside tyre was the one that spun, and zero traction for Frank. If he's able to get any more life out of these tyres, he can complete the lap he started. Checkered flag will now drop, so everybody who has crossed the start-finish line will be able to finish their lap. A TRR duo through turn number 2 now under the bridge, cross split number 1.
Technically, slipstreaming in qualifying is not allowed here, but Frank is staying in that slipstream. I don't blame him, to be honest.
It's nothing he could have done, unfortunately. They came out of the final corner both at the same time. Not an ideal split one for Frank, though, 36.81. All about the run out of here now. Better than the last lap, but I don't think it's enough to improve. He lost too much time in the first split.
Can Renault Kurtz improve?
He does improve. He's on the front row of the grid. Dethrones Arco from P2. Closest driver we've seen to Gavin Peat, but again, Gavin Peat, the only driver out of all 29 drivers at set times to be within the 1 minute 7s. So, what are your predictions for the race, Pete? How do you think it's going to go down?
I'm looking forward to it, that's for sure. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if Gavin can keep it in the lead from his teammate Renault Kurtz, who's clearly very quick, but yeah, qualifying in this series doesn't tend to mean a great deal unless you can hold it into turn 1.
Yeah, obviously being consistent for one lap in qualifying is vastly different to being consistent for 17 in a row. I don't think we'll see many drivers get close to the quali pace, because by the time the fuel comes out, the tyres won't be the same. But I think we'll see mid to low 108s for the fastest lap of race 1. Hopefully everybody's able to settle down into a bit of a rhythm, hit the marks. I hope we don't see the grid spread out too far, but I think people will be taking it easy. If you get tangled up in these cars, it's almost disaster for both parties involved.
Yeah, well, this sets a very interesting grid. Gavin Peat on pole. No stranger to the front of the grid. Renault Kurtz, likewise. Arco, definitely not. Adam, only on the second row. Well, the top 4 pretty close, but top 5 pretty close. But the standout performance there, definitely Gavin Peat, still just under 0.2 ahead of everybody else. But yeah, a good sized grid for a track with only 2, arguably 4 corners. But yeah, looking forward to this one. I'm guessing the driver's going to take a short break, and we'll be back for the start of race 1. Don't go anywhere. welcome back to the start of race 1.
Gavin Pete and his Team Rock Racing teammate Werner Kutz line the starting front row, 2 lights, and away we go for race number 1, lap 1 of 17 now. Everyone's struggling for traction to get going initially, obviously. Cold tyres. Werner Kutz from second place, not with a great start. Arco's already round, and Adam's having a look now from P number 4. Everybody else settling into what is to be the first of 17 laps. Upsas sends it on the middle of Werner Kutz and Adam now. Adam losing out of that. Frank now up to 3rd place. Everyone's still jostling for position. Adam's not done here. He's on the outside for this corner. Chooses to back out of it. Adam down in 6th now. Slightly better run than everybody in front of him. See what he can do. 3 wide now as we go into turn number 3 for the first time.
Gaggle of 4 cars here going into the chicane together. That's never going to go well.
Yeah, they need to be incredibly careful. Few on the grass now.
Werner Kutz had to run wide, yeah. And
Adam taps Upsas.
Is that Upsas on the grass?
Sideways, yes, unfortunately. So what I mean, you tap a wheel in these cars, you can't get away with door banging. You need to be incredibly careful now. Adam's still in 5th position.
Gavin Pete's got a heck of a run over Arco in P2 right now.
Yeah, the
Frank's
gap is
made
already
up to 3rd.
The gap for the lead is already 1.4 seconds. Frank up to 3rd now. Three wide behind again. Adam makes another position up, but he just can't quite get it stopped and hit his apex. He's going to get swarmed now. Adam was a nose ahead just
Look at this
on the outside of turn number 1. 2 wide, 2 deep. Adam profiting from the run, but got tangled up. Everybody sideways. Massive crash. Everybody behind's got to be incredibly careful.
Well, they weren't being careful there. There was yellow flags on the screen and people just didn't have anywhere to go by the looks of it. But still there's contact as Teemu Soini. Is that Teemu Soini or is it Jake? It's Jari Katila. He's spurred off into the grass.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's down in 30th position now, just caught up in the commotion. Again, look, I mean, battle for 11th place. We're still 3 wide again. That's Elmo getting forced onto the grass there. That was not friendly.
Oh, no,
plenty of room on the tracks, guys. Come on, keep it clean.
More cars off in the background.
Now, I'm wondering what's happened to Gavin Pete. I don't think there's been a massive issue, but the gap to the lead has come down quite a bit. But Frank's closing up to the back of Arco now.
Rick Cardle sends it on about 6 cars. We've got 2 3 wides going on.
We're 3 wide, 2 wide. It's all over the place. Guys, you need to settle down here. You're battling for P17 on lap 3. There's plenty of time left in this race. Everybody will be slightly more up to power. That's Michael. Adam getting taken out again. Ronnie's involved.
Absolute carnage. And this is race 1. We're not used to seeing this in race 1.
Yeah, if it's going to be worse, it's going to be in race 2 with the reverse grid, unfortunately. The faster drivers towards the back and the slower at the front.
Arco with the fastest lap right now. Stolen away by Gavin Pete actually on this lap. But yeah, the gap has come down slightly out front.
It was 1.4 a lap, 2 laps ago. I think it went down to just over a second. Now it's up to 1.35 again. Frank just not able to get it slowed down too much. Gets a good exit. Arco slightly on the grass there. Used all the exit curb and a bit too much. Look at the gap between 2nd and 3rd now. Frank's getting into that rhythm, hitting his marks, and if he can stay consistent, the gap will come down even further. The gap from Frank Arco is now 0.48 of a second, so just a couple car lengths separate these guys. You'll see how close they get to each other at the apex of turn number 4 to complete lap number 4.
Oh, Arco's run very wide. That's going to give Frank the run.
You'll be ever so careful when downshifting this car because of the 50-50 weight distribution, the car being front-engined. You need to be very careful on the downshifts. You don't want to lock that rear axle. Frank sets his personal best of the race so far, 108.59. The race leader last time around, a 108.52. But Kurtz is the fastest man on track right now in 13th position. He crossed the line that time, a 108.34. Got a gaggle of cars ahead of him though. What can Frank do? Out of turn number 2, he's closer this time than he was last time around, but I don't think it's close enough to make a move. If Arco runs wide or gets a bit of oversteer like he did last time around, Frank will take advantage of that.
Slightly contrasting lines into the final turn. Arco again very wide, but manages to get it hooked up this time. Doesn't lose as much time to Frank, but Frank will have the slipstream.
Yeah, like we were saying, these cars don't have any downforce at all, so they don't rely on wings to get grip. It's all mechanical, but no car is immune to the draft. If you follow closely enough, it's still effective for the car ahead of you to punch a massive hole in the air. Less so with cars without downforce, but you'll still see cars in the draft gaining slightly towards the end of the straight. Frank with a tighter line into turn number 1, arguably better on the power 2. Tighter through turn number 2 as well, both apexes. Not choosing to run as wide on the outside of turn number 2. And the man he's hunting down in second place, the gap is 0.45 of a second, so 300ths it's come down since last time around.
Upsas and Joni Katila going at it into the chicane before the final corner. And they've got Unite for company. Unite goes around the outside of Joni Katila there, side by side as they exit onto the home straight. Unite
Just
shoved a
further
little bit
back
into
in shot, we've got Team Rock Racing's Renner Kurtz, who was last time around the fastest car on track. A little bit of contact with Kidd in the final corner. He was closing up to the group ahead of him. Hopefully he can continue to do that. Obviously this lap won't be his fastest. That's just a massive difference in the amount of traffic on the lap compared to the one prior. Last time around, a 1 minute 10.97 for the man.
Contact. Red Devil Racing Sky gets taken out along with, I think that was, not sure who that was actually. Was that Kidd?
It was Kidd, number 42. He was the one who had contact with Renner Kurtz last time around at the final corner.
Frank and Arco have moved apart slightly, so Arco has responded to the impending pressure of Frank.
Yeah, Arco just shy of 2/10 faster than Frank this time around. What will the gap be at the line? Oh, Gavin Peak crosses the line in first position to start lap number 8, and I believe that's the fastest lap as well, a 1 minute 8.25. The gap to second, 1.89 seconds, and the gap to third, just over a second. So the gap from Frank to Arco doubled in just shy of 2 laps.
Great battle here between Joni Katila and Yes Motorsports Upsas.
Got a bit of a battle for 18th place as well. We're not quite into turn 1 yet, but we were 3 wide just before, and 3 don't go into 1, very close around turn number 1. What can Rick Cardle do? He leads the 3 at the moment in 18th place. Does the Sidus driver? The purple and yellow car on your screen. Got a little bit of a gap to the car ahead of him. It's not much in terms of traffic. This is where he needs to get his head down. Hydro pursued by Sky. They're all starting to spread out a bit.
We're watching the battle for 9th place between Salmon and Kryn side by side. They'll be across the line.
These
Salmon
two also teammates. Need to keep it clean as well. We'll see how they get on towards the end of the straight. If Kryn tucked into behind Salmonen, be slightly closer for turn number 1. You can see, look, the draft affects him already. He's on the inside, just got a wheel alongside. Kryn brakes slightly later, but can he get it turned in?
Nope.
Salminen takes a later apex and uses the cut back to his advantage. And I mean, it's Team Rock Racing, Team Rock Racing, Team Rock Racing, Team Rock Racing for
yeah, from
8th,
11th
9th,
through 8th.
10th, and 11th. And it would be to 12th, but Kake Piroppo separates 11th and 13th. Otherwise, it'd be 5 Team Rock Racing drivers in a row. There's a little lift there from Kryn going into turn number 3. Don't want to be too close at this part of the track. Guys, you need to spread out as well before you get onto the brakes. Road tyres aren't the greatest for being completely even across the entire grid. You'll see the cars squirming for traction under brakes and on the power. As that's Coots, he's actually pushing Kryn around Salminen, aided by the draft, of course. We're going to go 3 wide again.
3 wide between the teammates. Keep it clean, gents. We've seen plenty of accidents here today already. We don't want to see A anymore. Kryn is in the hot seat here. He's going to have a great line into turn 1. Salminen sends it. Oh, and
Not
Kryn
only do you
tags
have
with his
to
teammate.
keep to your line on the straight when 3 wide, again, I was about to say you need to keep your line on the brakes as well. Slight contact between Coots and Kryn, the Team Rock Racing drivers.
Great battle though. Clean in the end.
So far, the remainder of this and 7 laps to go.
So yeah, the top 11 made up entirely of Yes Motorsport and TRR drivers, except for Conquest Racing Arco in P2. So quite an amazing show out for those 2 teams.
But look at the Yes Motorsport drivers. 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th, they're all together. Not necessarily together on track. Trespasser and Unite in 4th and 5th place, very close together. Who's going to benefit here? Yes, Unite braking slightly later. You can see the drivers choosing to take different lines. Trespasser hits a later apex, but fortunately can't commit to the cutback as his teammate kind of parked it on the apex there, which he's obviously entitled to do. Very fair racing between these 2. If they can work together, they can probably increase the gap to the cars behind them. But I don't think they're within a shout of catching the leaders. The gap's just too much from Unite to the lead. The gap's 9 seconds. And with this and 6 more laps, there's not much they can do apart from pray for a mistake from our race leader, Gavin Peat. Look at the gap between Gavin Peat and Arco now. It's come down to under a second. Arco sets his personal best lap time, although it's not as close to the fastest lap as he'd like. The fastest lap at the moment held by Yes Motorsports Unite, a 1 minute 8.06, so we've almost seen a 1 minute 7 in race trim. Obviously, like I said, the weight will come out when the fuel does. These cars pack racing almost to a degree now.
I think there's going to be a battle
the entire lap.
I think
I think
Arco
there
is
is
going to get him. So Gavin Peat was not
Gavin
really
Peat
under
was
any sort
over
of
a
pressure.
second slower than Arco last time around, I think. Gavin Peat with a 1 minute 9 last lap.
Right.
Arco still in the 8s. So far on this lap, just under a tenth separates the drivers. You can definitely see that I think Arco's definitely got more to give. I'm going to have a look at Gavin Peat's tyres in the lead. His front right, the inside of his front right is absolutely on fire.
Yeah,
He'll
he
be
was locking
feeling
it
that.
up into the hairpin on the last lap, we noticed from the onboard. Yeah, so let's see if Arco can get this job done in the next 5 laps.
There's plenty of time left, although we have a very short lap. There's 5 of them. We'll see what he can do from P number 2. Just damage control now, really, for our race leader, Gavin Peat, the Team Rock Racing blue car. You can see just ahead of
3 wide between the
Arco.
TRR teammates again. They've got Kake Piroppo in the mix now. Kake doing all right. Oh, goodness me.
Oh, Salminen, very hot. Just clipped the back of Kryn, just not able to get it slowed down. Kryn sideways as he gets on the loud pedal, and Kake Piroppo profits from their loss. He's up to 10th now.
Yeah, so Kaige Propo has done a pretty good job of getting through 3 TRR drivers, just 2 left to go.
Just noticed, I'm looking through everybody else's little tyre graph as well. Everyone's tyres are on fire. The guys towards the back of the grid heating up the rears as well, just lighting it up on the power, but everyone's front right incredibly warm.
That's the problem with a week of preparation. You don't have as much time as you would normally in other series to refine your race setup. I'm sure that most people probably wouldn't have done a race distance of practice. They would have mainly been focusing on qualifying probably. But yeah,
I
17
see
laps is
quite a
quite
few
a lot for
drivers
this car.
setting personal bests now, so obviously the grid's spread out quite a lot more. Everybody in somewhat of a gap now. They can start focusing on hitting the marks and not attacking or defending if they can just settle down now. Kevin Pete needs to get that front right under control if he's going to stay in the lead. The gap remains very similar than a few laps ago. We're on lap 14 of 17 now. You see Kevin Pete is locking his inside front all the time now. That's going to add up. Obviously, you get a flat spot, it's going to want to grab every time you go near that brake pedal, and it's just going to add insult to injury.
Ricardo's about to enter the Team Up Racing party. He's all over the back of Texas as we approach the braking zone for the final corner. Where's he going to place the car? He goes to the outside and he's going to try and get the cut back on the exit. But he gets the job done before the apex. That was a great move. Texas struggling with tyres clearly, and Ricardo up to P13 with that move. TCR teammates in the background side by side. We don't see this very often.
Very similar on tyres, these two, but again, both of them struggling with the inside of that front right.
Adam on a recovery drive here, qualified P4 and got tangled in a couple of incidents in the first 2 laps and dropped way down the order, and he's back up to 16th right now. The car up ahead of him is Kid, and he runs into the back.
There's contact between the two. I was going to say Adam braked quite a bit later than Elmo. I thought he was just going to make it work, but runs into the back of number 42.
He'll give the place back to Kid.
Side by side now. Turn number 2 is Adam going to tuck back completely? He's not. He's going to use all the track to his advantage. What can Elmo do from P17 though? He wants to be getting past the number 42 car of Kid as well.
I think Elmo wants to stay well clear of that, to be honest.
I think he's definitely going to take his time, but Elmo's no stranger to making moves. Obviously, we're on lap 15 of 17 now. He's going to want them extra points. What
Kid's
can he do?
in a TCR sandwich here.
He is indeed. And Adam, again, suffering with that front right. Yes, Number as well, dropped a few positions now. He's just up ahead of these two. Elmo with the better run. Slightly, I think he had to lift there as we're running 3 wide ahead for the battle for 11th place. Piroppo, Texas, and Number. Contact between them all. Texas off to the left there. Piroppo not being very kind there. He knew he was on the right of the 3 cars.
Got a very high
all
ping.
the way over to the left. Whether that's a lack of awareness of other drivers around him or deliberate trying to not give any more room than the drivers are entitled to, he loses out this time because he went very wide out of turn number 1. Contact again with Texas means he loses out to Kid and Elmo too.
Elmo and Kid side by side
in pursuit. What can Elmo do up ahead? Now he sees the car of Texas as well being brought towards him. We're on lap 16 of 17 now.
Elmo's not. He needs to send it. He needs to lick the stamp and send it. There we go.
He does indeed.
He's got the speed. He's just doing too much lifting. Loses the rear on the curb, and that's not going to set him up well for the straight. And look who's behind him. Kaike, Mr. Laggy Piroppo, lagging all over the shop.
So our race leaders now just coming out of turn number 2 for the final time. The gap still just over half a second from Kevin Pete to Arco. Arco, I just don't think had an answer. Kevin Pete managed to drive around front right overheating issue. Is he going to lock up into the final corner for the final time in race 1? He does indeed, but what can Arco do?
It's almost showboating.
Close enough. Indeed. He has the time available behind him. He's going to use it.
Kevin will enjoy this win, but it does mean he's starting 29th for race 2. I wonder what he thinks of that. But anyway, Kevin Pete crosses the line.
Kevin Pete for Team Rock Racing, the winner of race 1 today here at Aston Club. Marco in second place, just 0.64 of a second separated your leader and the man in second position. Team Racing's Frank in third position, 3 seconds behind the leader. Yes, Unite Trio, Unite, Trespasser, and Upsas in 4th, 5th, and 6th. Team Racing Boys in 7th. That's Zaban. 8th for Coots, 9th for Salmonen, and 10th for Crin. Titus is Rick Cardle in 11th place. PC Racing's Adam in 12th position. Yes Motorsports Number in 13th. Team Rock Racing Texas in 14th. Kid in 15th. Kake Propo in 16th position. Red Devil Racing's Sky in 17th position, followed by Team Rock Racing's Hydro in 18th position. PC Racing's Elmo in 19th. Is that Yari Katila in 20th position, followed by the Race Green Autosports Machine, piloted by Roni in 21st position. Koivunen for World Class Lions in 22nd, followed by his teammate Soini in 23rd. Twin for Born to Race in 24th position. Race Green's Mandula in 25th, followed by another Born to Race car. Is that Scattle in 26th. Race Green's Magic 27th, and MRC's Mega and Michael make up the 28th and 29th positions. Unfortunately, a lap down for both of them. The only 2 cars not to cross the line on the lead lap. Impressive considering the amount of carnage that we've seen in such a short lap time. But if you thought you saw carnage in race 1, reverse grid for race number 2, your pole sitter, and I think, Kevin was the pole sitter.
Yeah,
Wasn't he?
Kevin was the
He
pole
was the only
sitter.
one again to get into the 1-minute 7s. He'll find himself at the very back of the
Yeah,
grid.
great job.
When
Really
we
good.
get back underway. Impressive for him to maintain the gap. It did come down to, I think, just over 0.4 of a second at one point. I think you and me both would have put money on Arco taking the race win away from Gavin in the final stages of race 1, but Gavin Pete able to stay on top of the overheating inside of front right tyre and takes the win, but he doesn't take the fastest lap. Nobody was able to go faster than the man in 4th position. Yes Motorsports Unite, the closest again to a 1-minute 7 race pace, so this time a 1-minute 8.06. If he'd have done that lap in qualifying, he would have been second on the grid. Obviously, he was aided quite a bit by the draft, and drivers are discouraged from using that advantage in qualifying. However, with such a short lap time and 29 cars in total, it's quite hard to get yourself into some clear space.
Absolutely. Race 2 should be interesting to say the least, given how chaotic the first 2 laps of that race were, Jack.
Yeah, hopefully everybody takes it easy in race number 2. We'll see the faster talent at the back and the slower guys towards the front. So the guys at the front will know everybody behind them was faster in race number 1, and the guys at the back will know everybody in front of them is slightly slower, but we've got to work together. Otherwise, we'll see even more carnage than we did in race 1. So I think we're going to take a short break. We'll be back just before the start of race number 2. Don't go anywhere. So we're away for start of race number 2. Welcome back. Short intermission there. Drivers line up on the grid. Michael will take the front row. One red light, 2 red lights, and we are away for race 2 here at Aston Club. Ideal start from the man in pole, Michael. What can everybody else do? Further back down the grid. Hopefully everybody keeps it clean. If we're going to see some carnage, it's going to be in turn number 1. Drivers still obviously on cold tyres now. Need to bide the time before they can start making some risky manoeuvres. Everybody at the front so far so good. Everybody slots in. Michael still your race leader, followed by his teammate Mega. Couple wide, Mandula and Magic. P2R's twin getting involved there. This is the battle for P4.
So far, so good through the chicane.
Yeah, Twin was slightly generous with the throttle pedal coming out of number 2. Just tapped the wall, and that checked everybody up as Ronnie and Koivunen get into each other. The world class lying car now in the gravel trap just out of turn number 3.
The 2 TCR drivers are having fun.
They are indeed. Elmo is up to, I think that's 6th position now. He's just taken from Magic. Adam will follow him. TC Racing 6 and 7 at the moment. Magic loses out to Team Rock Racing's Crin as well, as we've got 2 wide, 2 deep again. This is the battle for 9th position. We're going to go 4 wide almost. It chooses to stay behind Hydro. Driver's very close on track now. Who's going to be later on the brakes and who is going to get it turned in? Ronnie and Hydro side by side now as Yes Motorsports Unite sends it up the inside of Id with 4 wide at the apex of turn number 1. Oopsas getting involved as well. I think the TCR boys up ahead are side by side now.
I'm getting deja vu, Jack.
Is it going to play out in the same way it did last time? Hopefully everybody's slightly more cautious. The ones that lost out in race 1 will be. They don't want to see a repeat of earlier events.
Yeah, that was quite nice. Touchwood, we get a bit more of this clean, safe driving. I quite like this.
This is what it should have been from the get-go.
Oh, Ronnie loses it, and he's rolled.
And that's Ronnie upside down now. Only on lap 2, Kid missed out on that as well. He span round. It's going to be race over for Race Green Autosports.
Absolutely. We're welcome into the commentary box, Thilo Falkenberg.
Hello.
Welcome to the crazy race we're experiencing.
Yeah. First thing I see is Ronnie on the roof.
Yeah. Brilliant.
But up in front, it seems like Michael has some nice gap now to Mandula. But behind that, Mega and Twin are side by side, battling with Katila, the older one.
Yeah, Twin slightly running wide there. He's lost out to the guys ahead, and Adam will sweep around the outside. Retaken 5th position. Twin down in 6th now from, I think it was 4th or maybe even 3rd across the line. Elmo wants a piece of Twin as well. Elmo down in 7th position, wants to follow his TCR teammate through. Slightly wide was Elmo on the outside of turn number 3, but it's all about getting it slowed down into the final turn. Drivers want to be very careful not to flat spot that inside front right again, like many were in race number 1. And just look at the drive that Yes Motorsports Unite got out of the final corner. He's already side by side with Elmo, and they cross the line. Elmo will get the position across the line, but Unite already well ahead.
Further up, Adam and Mega side by side. Adam passes Mega, but from behind, Katila is arriving.
And that's Elmo has been pit maneuvered by Yes Unite. Unfortunately, Elmo bit hot into turn number 1 there. He loses out drastically. Where will he end up?
20th. Not great. Oh, goodness me, upsats into the wall. Unite into the wall, takes Crin out with him. That was a big accident.
So Elmo would be wanting to follow his teammate up into the podium positions now, but look where Adam's managed to get himself up to. He's in 3rd position now as a TCR driver. I don't think he will be too worried about the drivers that are ahead of him. Adam put himself in the top 5 in qualifying, I believe, so he's definitely got the pace to give it to Mandula and Michael, who are in 2nd and 1st respectively.
Yeah, he didn't have a great race one, did he? He was way down the order after a couple of accidents, and now he's up to... Well, he started quite high, and now he's up to P3 with 5 laps gone.
Twin is now taking a look at Upsas. Though not close enough on the braking. Mega with a mistake, and Upsas nearly catching the tail end of the LX6.
Just a bit further down the grid, the battle for 10th position, we've got Rick Cardle and Yes Motorsports number almost trying to go side by side into turn number 2 now. They managed to slot in, hit their apexes, and if these guys work together, they can catch the back of the group up. The gap from Rick Cardle to Hydro ahead is just under a second. And with the cars ahead battling anyway, they'll hopefully catch up. Mega on the outside now through turn number 4. Who's that? Was that Twin losing it? Get it all out of shape into the final corner.
Yeah, it was.
He doesn't want to overheat his tyres too much. We know this car's not the greatest with power delivery, with it having no rear wing to push rear tyres into the tarmac. Driver's almost got to feather the throttle.
What is the rear wing? Explain. Well, it could be worse if that car had even more power.
I just noticed no one choosing to... Hold on.
You want to qualify this? I know what you're about to say as well.
You know, yeah, what was I going to say?
No one choosing to put their driver on the right.
No.
No?
I was going to say something even more dumb. No one
Well,
choosing to
Adam
run
is
with
on
the
the right.
roof up. The LX6.
You can run with the roof up in the LX6.
Can you?
Yeah.
Well,
You
the
can have
point
a-
stands then.
You can have open and closed roof. I mean, who would choose to?
I know
run
for
with the roof?
100% that you can with an LX4, sorry.
Yeah, no, you can do it with
I'm
this as well.
surprised if you haven't.
Yeah, more aerodynamics,
Ricardo
right?
on the outside of Hydro for 10th position.
Thanks,
Not...
Thilo. Only one of us is actually paying attention to the race.
Well, we could continue talking about
No,
the
no.
LX8 then.
Carry on. We've already talked about that once tonight. Rick Cardle
okay.
side by side across the line with Hydro.
The gap at the line was 0.01 of a second. Obviously, they were almost side by side as they crossed the line. Ricardo slightly ahead this time, but will be on the outside for turn number 1. Hydro choosing to brake quite early, but doesn't run wide. Unable to get the cut back because Rick managed to get the apex that he needed. He keeps 10th position. Meanwhile, look at Arco all over the back of Hydro now, the man
Yeah,
in
but also
second
look
place
at-
in race 1.
Second place now. Mandula is giving the second place to Adam before that fast chicane on the back part of the track.
So Adam was on the bottom step of the podium now. He's on the second step. Will he convert this run into a race win? I'll let you know the gap at the line, but I think it's around about a second, maybe just over.
Well, he's got 10 laps to do it. You'd think he'd have a good go. Speaking of the podium, here comes Gavin Peat, the winner from the last race, goes past Upsas, and now he's got the draft of one of the WCL cars. That's Jari Katila.
So Adam last time around was 0.9.
Oh, oops, that's losing it.
Ooh, and Gavin goes up into 4th.
For a moment I thought Upsas would even run into the back of Mandula, but luckily he can keep the car on track and on the black stuff and not in the back of that, again, not race green car.
Massive oversteer from Katila through turn number 2. You saw from that rear facing
Gavin
shot.
Peat's sending it. He's up into 3rd.
Upsas
move.
also sends it in the same corner. Mandula runs wide. He's going to lose out to Upsas and potentially Katila.
Yep, Daniel
If you
Ballard
can't get it
slipping
slowed
backwards.
down. Frank in 7th position.
Here come the
What can
Wolves.
Frank do? Frank tighter line through the final corner. I think he's going to take both of these positions away. Frank might find himself from 7th to 5th. I mean, even before the braking zone, he's already passed Katila as Frank threads the needle through the 2 of the drivers. What can Mandula do? He sticks to the inside line. Frank will move over to the left and brake where he normally would. Mandula brakes early, Catilla around the outside.
Frank just locking the
Mandula
front.
able to
Still
hit the
manages
apex
to.
though.
Yeah.
Mandula and Catilla still side by side. Who's going to back out of it? Neither one wants to, but two don't go into one. Mandula lifted slightly, but Catilla hard on the brakes there. They were almost side by side again. Mandula with a better run out of turn number 2, the small straight where split 1 is, into turn number 3. Who's going to back out now? Both braking very similar, with almost identical runs between the two. Mandula slightly faster though into the braking zone before turn number 4. Not able to get anything done on the entry of the corner. Needs to prioritise his exit.
Oh yeah.
So Adam has already made up into the leading position. I was going to say, just before that battle that we watched last time around, Adam was over, well, he was just shy of a second, sorry, he's about 9/10 faster than Michael a lap. And we've seen that again. Michael last time around, a 1 minute 9.88, Adam a 1 minute 8.86. So just over a second, Adam is currently faster than who was your race leader last time around, finds himself in second place now. But what can Gavin Pete do? Obviously, Gavin Pete, the fastest man in qualifying, won race number 1, started from the very back. He's already up to 3rd position on lap 10. 1.64 seconds separates Gavin from your race lead. If he can consistently hit his marks, Adam's got a battle on his hands.
Yeah, Gavin just a purple sector 1.
Very similar to the qualifying time we saw from Gavin.
Michael runs wide, Gavin's through.
Obviously struggling to get the car slowed down. Maybe not rev matching. Could lock that rear axle, kick the back end out. That's not what you want. Gavin up to P number 2. That's just where Gavin's got to get his head down, go into a bit of a qualifying mode and just keep an eye on that gap. Gavin last time around a 1 minute 8.43. Adam a 1 minute 8.51. So just under a tenth of a second separates your first and second drivers in lap time last time.
Very different lines between Adam and Gavin there. Adam with a more curvy line, so to speak, while Gavin, well, he's braking harder for the apex.
Yeah, a lot of drivers either choosing to sweep into the corner, some will aim for the corner and brake into the corner. The last corner is very...
That's now on the back of Michael and side by side already.
This is the battle for 3rd place. Michael losing out again.
Well, battle is something different.
Michael finds himself off of the podium now. However, he has a slightly better run down the start-finish straight than the man in front of him. Don't think the gap's small enough for him to attack again into turn number 1. Upsas last time around a 1 minute 8.58, so almost mirroring the race leader's pace. He was faster than both of the cars ahead of him last time around. Michael still in the 1 minute 9s.
3 wide between Salmon and Jaban and Hydro. Seen Jaban much this race or this event. Normally one of the front runners, but solid mid-pack driver today. And he makes his way up to the top 10 right now. But there's 4 cars really bunched up here.
Trespasser interfering with this TRR 3 tuple.
Ricardo chooses to almost try and send it on Hydro. Leaves him on the outside though of turn number 2. It does, and he loses out on the drive down into turn number 3. It's still a Team Rock Racing sandwich with Salmon in the middle.
Oh, Jari Katila runs wide and Arco inherits P6.
It does, yeah. Katila down in P7 now. As behind we've got Sidus's Rick Cardle and Mandula side by side as they cross the line for the 12th time to start lap 13 of 17. These guys, well, I say these guys, Mandula in the 1 minute 9s, Rick Cardle in the 1 minute 8s. What's going to happen into turn number 1? They both brake at almost the same time, but Mandula choosing not to turn in almost until it's too late. I don't think Rick Cardle was too far over to the left. But Ricciardo will stay in 8th position.
Mandula's only got 4.5 laps left to seal the deal for the double win today.
You mean Gavin Pete?
Who did I say?
Mandula.
It's
Oh,
okay though. We knew what you were talking about.
Mandula being gifted the win by the commentators. Gavin Pete, rather.
But look who's behind Gavin Pete. Yes, Motorsports UPSAS was faster last time around and is a couple hundredths faster this lap so far. But the gap from first to second is 0.73 of a second, and then the gap from Gavin Pete in second to UPSAS in third is only 0.6, so maybe it's going to be a three-way fight for the lead very shortly as the drivers round turn number 1 for the 14th time this race.
Adam tends to hold himself well under pressure, but let's see if he can hold back the charge of Gavin Pete. He's come all the way from the back in 29th place to be in P2 right now, and he's got 4 laps left to try and get that win.
He's on an incredible run as Gavin Pete, but all 3 of the top drivers at the moment suffering from the same issue that we saw in race number 1. They're all locking that inside front right.
Yeah, huge lock up from Adam there as we look out from the back of his car towards Gavin Pete in the blue and white car and UPSAS in the black and gold car.
I was going to say, Adam, out of the 3 of them, even though he's still suffering from those flat spots on the front right, had the coolest front right of all the drivers. Not anymore though, after that turn number 4. They're all about even now. Adam got in the fastest lap of the top 3 last time around with a 1 minute 8.36. Gavin Pete in second, a 108.52. And Yes Motorsports UPSAS in third position, a 108.41. So just under 2/10 separated all 3 drivers last time around. Adam wanting to extend that lead. He's got this and 2 more laps. He didn't have the greatest exit to turn number 2, didn't run all the way up to the wall. That gap's going to come down again. 0.65 of a second now, and 0.59 again to the car in third position.
But still the top 3 are rather evenly spread. Oh!
Adam was quite wide then on the run into turn number 4. Managed to get it turned into the apex, and his exit seems okay, but you can only imagine that he lost out there because of how wide he was. The gap last time, well, at the last split was 0.6 I think, or 0.5. It's now 0.45.
Yeah, Adam was saved by his exit, and also Gavin got a lot of wheel spin out of the hairpin, so
but not an ideal last lap for Adam. The gap coming down even more. Adam last time around a 108.9, so half a second away from where he was a lap prior. Gavin Pete in second place, a 108.46, so consistent pace from the man in P2. He'll be wanting to take that lead away from Adam. He's got this and the next lap to do it. The gap at the split, 0.5 of a second. Adam will be slightly faster this time around, 500th of a second faster to be exact this time around. Adam needs to manage his front right though. You can see it's consistently locking up at the same place every lap.
He's only got 1 more lap to survive, and he's about the same distance behind.
Gavin was almost sideways at the apex of turn number 4. The gap's going to be, I think, just more than 0.5 of a second this time around as we start the final lap, lap 17 of 17. It's actually a personal best from Gavin Pete, but it was also a personal best from Adam as well. He sets the fastest lap of the race, a 108.24.
Adam doing just enough here.
Now, can he keep the pace up? One mistake will cost him the race win. One mistake from Gavin Pete could cost him again the race win if he's able to get past Adam. He's going to want this badly since he was on pole position and won race number 1. Adam's just got to keep it cool now. UPSAS, I think, is out of contention unless these 2 come together at some point. The gap 0.68 now, so Gavin Pete still dropping back, just a 10th shy of Adam's pace this time around, and the gap's increasing. Unless he goes for an almighty dive bomb or Adam makes a mistake, I don't think he's going to do it. Adam again, you can just see how much he's locking up that front right.
It's
struggling to get on the power, but Adam is gonna win here at race 2. He led from, I think, lap 12 or 13 and managed to fend off everybody. Adam takes the victory here at Aston Club. He'll be happy with that after the unfortunate incident he was involved in race number 1. And while he's at it, takes the fastest lap as well. Hats off to him.
Yeah, Adam Brown of TC Racing denies Gavin Peat of Teamwork Racing a double win in round 20 of the Teamwork Racing Championship. Much cleaner, much better race 2, I'd say, especially towards the front, which is not usually the case.
No, especially with the reverse grid. I think everybody learned something from race 1 at least, and chose to take it a bit easier in race number 2, and I'm glad they did as well, because not only was it fair and decent racing, it was also pretty exciting too. We saw Gavin Peat make his way from 29th position all the way up to 2nd, but just didn't have an answer for Adam's pace towards the end. Adam really dealt with the pressure quite well. He'll be happy with that race win.
But after all, we lost 5 cars, 30 started, 25 finished. So probably some things happened further down the grid.
I'm just noticing, I think we're missing Elmo.
Yep.
From the standings. I wonder what happened to him. We saw him got tangled up. He didn't quite follow his teammate through the pack like he would have wanted to. Unfortunately, I think he got pit maneuvered in turn number 1 on, I think, lap 9 or 10. And it was just backwards for the TC Racing driver from there.
Well, that concludes the racing for round 20 of the Teamwork Racing Championship. Next week we're at Rockingham Historic Short, so another Rockingham combination, and this time in the FZ5, which at that track is going to be hella fun and hella hot and burny and well, there's going to be a strong smell of rubber.
Definitely. Heavy car with some sweeping corners and one of the faster infield circuits of Rockingham. That's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
As always, thank you for joining us this week. If you enjoyed what you saw, please consider following the channel. Links to our broadcast calendar will be in the description. That's where we're going to be next week. As we said, we are at Rockingham Historic Short in the FZ5. Find the full broadcast on our Twitch channel and the re-upload afterwards on YouTube.
And if you're on YouTube, you can also subscribe us and ring the bell and everything like that.
Ding ding. We're going to hang around for a couple of minutes until see if any drivers want to come and have an interview. Otherwise, we will wrap up here and wish everyone a good night. Drivers can join our TeamSpeak channel at ts.simbroadcasts.tv.
Feel free to come say hi. We'll ask you how your race was. Plenty of action for everybody. I think everybody on the grid got some screen time.
Yeah, I don't want to know what the protest thread is going to be like after this one.
That's the advantage, just being the one covering the events.
Adam's come to say hi. Hello, Adam.
Hello.
So race 1 wasn't the perfect. I saw you get tangled. Talk us through race number 1.
I think that's a massive understatement, but go on.
First lap, got quite unlucky in the first corner. I lost a couple places. And going into the last corner on the first lap, I gave Upsass a little tap and he sent him spinning, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, we were saying how easy it is to get tangled up in these cars. You can't really get away with door banging, but
No, you can't. And then down into the first corner on the second lap, there's, I think, 4 of us fighting for that one position. A bit rubbing into the first corner, then into the chicane. I can see that there's going to be a crash in front of me, so I kind of ease off a bit, but it wasn't enough, and they kind of get collected in the.
I noticed that you lifted on the entry, obviously trying to get the best exit that you could, but I think one of the drivers ran slightly wide and bounced off that wall, and that just sent everybody flying into your path, unfortunately.
Yep.
But race 2, the complete opposite, managed to seal the deal, take the win and the fastest lap. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so I started in like picking, I think, 17th, 15th, kind of mid-grid. Had a brilliant first lap up to 6th. I was up the inside of everyone in the first corner, and I just held my cool. I didn't push too hard unless it was needed. I just put in some consistent laps. That was all I needed to do to win.
Yeah, we noticed that. I think I can say about 80% of the grid was struggling with the front right into the final corner. How did you manage that? Were you trying to actively brake less into the final corner? Did you think you could just drive through it or around it? What was your approach?
I could feel it locking up sometimes. I was just I did alter my line from my hot laps, but nothing too drastic, just turning in a bit less the entry.
Well, I'm glad you managed to hold off Gavin Pete. He would have taken both wins today if you had not done so. But it's good to see you on the top step of the podium. Congratulations once again, and for the fastest lap.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah,
you'll be glad to know
that you'd be glad to know that Thilo thought it wasn't very fast when he was watching it.
Yep.
I was pressured into it from behind. I had to do it.
Well done for holding it. I thought at one point Gavin was going to overpower you, but you kind of woke up a bit.
Yeah, I noticed that I needed to put the throttle, put the power down a bit, and yeah.
So we're at Rockingham Historic Short next week in the FZ5. Any thoughts?
Another
FZ5.
fun rear-wheel drive car for you to have fun in. More tyres, tyre squealing.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one is Rockingham Historic. The one that has the weird chicane at the start.
It's
two
historic
weird
short,
chicanes.
so it doesn't. It's just
yeah,
a big
it's
oval.
very fast.
It's just a big oval basically that goes.
But
yeah.
with 3 chicanes actually.
Yeah.
Does it have the first chicane?
It has, yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Oh, yeah, it's got the first chicane, and then that weird. Instead of doing the hairpin, it's got a weird flat out. Well, not flat out.
Yeah, and then you have the double left-hander, and then in the chicane back onto the oval.
Yeah, that second chicane is gonna be a killer, I think. The wall on the outside is gonna murder some drivers.
Well, this was a great conversation, but we do need to wrap it up. Thanks for the interview. We've got Rocky who's come to say hi to us. Hi, Rocky. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty fine, but I was just going to correct you on one little thing. Next week we will not have the normal T1, which is basically a hazard. We will have the oval section instead in turn 1.
So it's an open config round then?
So it's basically oval turn 1 and turn 4 and a couple of chicanes.
Well, that basically matters if Elmo manages to create some kind of trick for the camera system. But if that happens, yes, then we will have an open config. Otherwise, there will just be 3 cones.
We're not having a race with cones, I hope. So yeah, we'll try and sort something out for next week. Otherwise, drivers should take the chicane.
Okay.
I know the FZ5 won't care about cones, but still.
I feel sorry for the guy that's got to put them back every lap.
All right, well, thanks.
Especially
for that,
when he sees 1.5 ton of car entering that.
Yeah, especially if there's 30 of them or whatever. Yeah, thanks for that correction. This could be Thilo's last stream with us for the Team Racing Championship. Unfortunately,
at least on a regular basis.
Yeah, so it might be a little bit less predictable from now on. But thank you for.
He's decided it's a good idea to go out and play real sports instead of commentating on pretend one with us. I don't know what's going through your mind, Thilo. Come on, man.
I'm not allowed outside, so well, not for any longer than like a couple of hours, I suppose. But I don't live in a free country, so
I hope to see you in the commentary box though at some point again, Thilo. It's been fun.
well, Jack, me
Well,
and you
we
live in the
see us
commentary
in
box right now.
other races.
Yeah, so
It's not like I'm going to disappear completely. Just the
Where's he gone?
Tuesdays.
Oh, I'm kidding. But yeah, Tuesday nights. So you're back on your agenda. So, all right. Well, thank you, Tilo. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Rocky. That's all from us for tonight. If you want to join this series, you can do on the LFS forum in the Team Up Racing Championship 2020 subsection. Join us next week at Rockingham Historic Short in the F75. Have a great night. Goodbye, chaps.
Take care.
Take care.